Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get into elite shape, or perhaps just make improvements to your current level of fitness, check out the Mountain Tough digital training program. You can try it for free for 14 days, and you can see the results for yourself. The app allows users to train wherever they are with minimal equipment requirements, whether you're in the gym or you're outdoors or you're at home. Users can access top-tier programming that fits into their lifestyle. The Mountain Tough app offers expertly designed progressive training plans that guide users from start to finish. These plans are tailored to build resilience, strength, and endurance over time, preventing burnout and injury. The app features self-guided and follow-along coaching videos, allowing users to be coached through every workout step by step. This helps to ensure proper form, motivation, and intensity, regardless of the user's fitness level. The Mountain Tough app delivers training programs built for the unique physical demands of mountain athletes, including hunters, tactical professionals, and outdoor adventurers. The programs themselves are designed by seasoned strength and conditioning experts, elite athletes, and military veterans. Start your 14-day free trial today and check out the results for yourself. And be sure to use the offer code CHANGEAGENTS, and I'm looking at it as one word, at signup, and you can get 40% off your annual subscription. Remember, use the offer code CHANGEAGENTS at checkout.
Sam was like, just pull up a chair and watch me do my thing. So I'm sitting there with him, with looking over his shoulder. I mean, in hindsight, it's extra wild because like he's running at this moment like one of the biggest scams in history, and he's got like a reporter just sitting there, like while his chats and everything are popping up.
How can I help? How can I be useful in ending needless suffering? Do not be afraid of work that has no end.
We have to organize a social movement.
We have an opportunity to lead by example versus just talking, hot air. I think the more people in this fight, the more we grow. Eventually it could change. The people are the ones that can make the change.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Change Agents, an Ironclad original presented by our friends at Montana Knife Company. Today's episode is about the work of investigative journalist Zeke Faux. He specifically has been investigating the world of cryptocurrency. Zeke is an investigative reporter for Bloomberg Businessweek and Bloomberg News, and a national fellow at New America. He is the author of the book Numbers Go Up: Inside Crypto's Wild Rise and Staggering Fall. Some stats on crypto and the scams associated with it. The number of users in the cryptocurrency market is projected to reach just over 100 million by 2025. According to the Better Business Bureau, about 80% of Americans targeted in crypto and investment scams last year lost money. In those scams, the median dollar amount was $3,800. Let's get into the episode. Dude, crypto. I'm so glad that we get to monopolize about an hour of your time. I don't know if crypto has ever targeted at me. I'm 46 years old. I honestly don't remember the first time I heard about it, but I've never had an understanding of it. And I've heard terms like blockchain and all of these things, but if you put $1 million on a table in front of me, I couldn't accurately describe what the blockchain is, even though I've heard the term. Before we get into the scams that can be associated with crypto and some notable things, I definitely want to talk with you a bit about Sam Bankman-Fried, mostly because I think he's incredibly recognizable, and it's an entry point that people will probably recognize from the modern era of what can go sideways. Before that, though, can you unpack kind of where crypto came from, like the origin, the inception, the timeline? Because I was thinking back, I can't remember the first time I heard the term, but I suspect you have a better idea of the lineage of when crypto came about.
Yes. It's not as bad as you think.
Okay, that's good. That's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Let's start with the history. Where did it come from? And is there crypto itself? I know that's a broad term. Is it generally associated with any one person, the origin, or was it a group of people or a shared idea?
So back in 2008, an anonymous person or group that went by Satoshi Nakamoto released the Bitcoin white paper. And it was a pretty revolutionary idea. I mean, other people had proposed these forms of money based on cryptography that could be transferred electronically, but Bitcoin was like a leap forward. And it's never been revealed who Satoshi was. And pretty soon after releasing the white paper, which was like the plan for Bitcoin, he or she or they disappeared. And it's kind of wild. Satoshi controls like a huge chunk of Bitcoin. So if they were to ever reappear, which it doesn't look like they're going to do, they would be one of the richest people in the world. So
what's the value
it's
of
like
their
this
wallet?
great mystery. What's that?
What's the value of their wallet?
Oh man, I mean like hundreds of billions of dollars, I think.
And if that person never reemerges, is that money locked away forever?
Yes. In fact, the way that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies work, the electronic wallet where you hold your money is anonymous. It's you can think of the blockchain like a big Google sheet in the sky.
Okay.
And in column 1, we got a list of wallets. And Andy's wallet might be identified by like a 32-digit string of random letters and numbers. And in column 2, we have a number. That's like the number of Bitcoins you have. And if we're talking about the Dogecoin blockchain, that's like the one where the coin is a dog joke.
Yep. Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You got 2 columns. First column, people's wallets. Second column, how many. And so that's really all it is. And it used to be that we relied on banks or other central intermediaries to keep track of all the bank accounts and how much money was in each one. The revolutionary idea in Bitcoin is that we can keep track of this spreadsheet as a group, and there's not one person in control of it. And there's like complicated systems that prevent anyone from making unauthorized modifications to it. But if I like want to send you 1 Bitcoin, I'm basically just sending a command out to the Bitcoin network that is like, subtract 1 from column 2 on my row and add 1 to column 2 on your row. And there's like the Bitcoin or the Dogecoin or whatever, it's not like a thing that really exists. It's just numbers in this spreadsheet. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's like a useful approximation. So everybody knows at this point what Satoshi's wallet address is. And you can see how many Bitcoins Satoshi has. And if Satoshi ever started moving those Bitcoins, it would actually be like the biggest thing that ever happened in crypto. And you could imagine the market might dump because people would want to sell their Bitcoins before Satoshi started unloading his. But at this point, that's never happened. And that's actually the way, if somebody claimed they were Satoshi, you'd say, well, if you're Satoshi, send me some Bitcoin from that special Satoshi wallet. Yeah. No one's ever done that.
So, let's go down this rabbit hole. I love this type of conversation. Let's say that Satoshi does come back and he wanted to empty his wallet. He's like, you know what? Enough of this hundreds of billions of dollars on a spreadsheet. I want hundreds of billions of dollars in cash. How quickly would somebody be able to do that, to turn this from an electronic token into actually, I'm assuming it would have to jump into a banking system of some kind. I'm unfamiliar how it goes from the electronic token to, I mean, not that it would need to physically go into paper in your wallet, but something like you could access on a debit card or along those lines. How quickly could that happen?
Satoshi could approach you and say, Andy, I got a lot of Bitcoin. I want to sell some. And you could give him money for those Bitcoin. But that technique would probably be pretty slow because you'd have to find enough people to buy, tens of billions of dollars of Bitcoin. So as it happens, most crypto trading is concentrated at a few exchanges like Coinbase or Binance or once upon a time, Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX.
Yep.
And so Satoshi, you electronically send your Bitcoin to the exchange's wallet. And then on the exchange, they've aggregated all the orders, and enough people want to trade Bitcoin every day that you would be able to sell hundreds of millions or even probably a couple billion of Bitcoin for money on the exchange. Then you tell the exchange, hey, I want to withdraw my money, and they would send your cash to your bank account. But so 50 billion is like, this is unprecedented. The market would start moving. It's kind of hard to say how long it would take, but you can definitely trade like a fair amount of Bitcoin, like hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin for money on an exchange and get the money out in like a couple of days. But this sort of exposes a contradiction in crypto markets, because originally the idea with Bitcoin was that this would be kind of an alternative to government-controlled currencies.
Yep.
It'd be anonymous, it'd be peer-to-peer. And in practice, Bitcoin and almost all other cryptocurrencies are mainly used by people with exchanges. And instead of like doing cool cryptography on your computer and being away from government control, the way the vast majority of people use crypto is they send money to Coinbase, just like they would send money to E-Trade or DraftKings or something like that. And they go and trade crypto within their Coinbase account, and then they withdraw real money again later. And at no point do they actually have crypto in a crypto wallet. And this can be a problem because you're trusting when Coinbase says you have 3 Bitcoins in your Coinbase account. I mean, it looks pretty good in the app, and I have no reason to doubt Coinbase, but that's with FTX, with Sam Bankman-Fried. People would go in their wallet, they'd say, oh, it looks like I've got, $10,000 of Ethereum in my wallet. This is pretty cool. And all at once, when people started to worry about FTX's financial condition, they went to take it out, and they realized that having your crypto on an exchange is not really quite as secure as you might imagine. The money wasn't there, and people were unable to access it for quite some time.
Yeah, if ever, it seems like for some people. How would, and I've read articles before about, crypto billionaires, and it seems like, again, they're looking at a number on an app. So they appear to be asset rich. I'm not sure if they're cash poor or cash rich, but let's say a crypto billionaire is like, today is my day. I'm pulling $1 billion out. And let's say they're able to do that. How is a bank in the United States going to respond to a $1 billion transfer?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to raise a lot of red flags. And
it might be a taxable event. I'm not familiar with the IRS code specifically, but
they would want to see that you had some sort of clear way that you had earned that $1 billion. If you were like some sort of no-name hacker who somehow had gotten $1 billion, I think they would they would be very slow to send you that money.
Yeah.
And they'd be, sending a suspicious activity report to the feds pretty quick. And I mean, that's kind of like what is so potentially good about crypto. In crypto, if you want to do like real crypto, you can send money peer to peer. You don't have to go through the exchange, even though most people do for convenience. And this means that if I am a member of a drug cartel in the US and I want to pay my supplier in Colombia, if I know their crypto wallet address, I can send them crypto peer to peer without triggering any alerts, without anybody being able to know. And the crypto, it's all right there on the blockchain. But if you are careful to not reveal your secret wallet address to anyone, there's no way for law enforcement to know about it. So you hear about law enforcement solving these crypto crimes, but what it depends on is they need to identify the criminal's wallet address at some point. And once you got the wallet address, you can see every transaction they've ever made, which is pretty wild. But a careful criminal can change their wallet address frequently and stay one step ahead of the feds. And one of the things I explored in my book was this new kind of scam that these anonymous transfers have enabled called pig butchering. And these are, have you ever gotten one of those spam text messages that's like, hey, Bill, did you get that milk on your way home?
As we were prepping the show notes, the producer got one of these text messages. Hey, Claire, do you want to come over for dinner? And I'm paraphrasing because I was laughing too hard and crying at the fact he kept going back and forth. But, oh, no, it's not. Wrong number. Oh, so sorry. Oh, no worries. Oh, you seem like a nice person, you know? And you can tell that they're trying to bait a soft hook.
Basically, you send enough messages, eventually you're going to hit somebody who is looking for something and is willing to engage. And so the way that that these scams work on the crypto side, I figured out by playing along. And I met a woman who went by Zeke Faux. And, you know, we started chatting. We became she would text me every morning, good morning, how are you? She'd send me little voice notes. And I'm at this point, you know, for my book, I spent like 2 years going down the crypto rabbit hole.
Totally.
And I'm trying to figure out, like, what are people really doing with this? And so I had heard these types of scams were a thing. And so I'm like, hurry up, Vicky, try and scam me. Like, I want to know how this works. She just kept talking about her expensive hobbies, her rich uncle who taught her how to trade. It was like a week before she finally got around to scamming me. And what she said was, she had me download this special crypto trading app. And this was going to be, I knew, like a fake app where it would look like a real exchange, but it was actually fake. And there's so much weird stuff in crypto. I don't blame people for falling for this. It's like, oh, XRPT exchange is fake, but like XRC exchange is real. Yeah. You know, it's with crypto, a lot of the like real crypto stuff sounds like nonsense anyway. But so what she did was she said, download a real exchange app like Coinbase, send them money the normal way, like from your bank account. And then in order to transfer it to the special exchange where like the good trades happen, you need to enter crypto land and you need to transfer your money, exchange your money for crypto and send it to this 32-digit anonymous address. And it's easy to do. Coinbase enables that because that's how, I would send money to you too if I wanted to. So if I tried to like swipe my credit card and send, $1,000 to Cambodia where Zeke Faux is likely located, I mean, that would set off a lot of alarms. They probably wouldn't do it and they'd call me. Yeah. With crypto, and you could charge it back, you can say, oh, I've been scammed. I'm going to charge this back. With crypto, I send my crypto to Zeke Faux's 32-digit address. Like zap, she's got it. It's gone. And now on her. So if you heard your other podcast with Nathan and Lizzie, you would know that people sending these messages are likely trapped in these scam compounds where they're abused by Chinese gangsters. I mean, it's a horrible problem.
Full-on dormitories, forced labor, teams of people. You know what shocked me in that process is I had just assumed that you were probably texting with one person, and they were describing it as it passes along the chain to the degree that the depth continues. I mean, not like overly like AI sophisticated, but also not a dumb or simple operation either.
Yeah, I mean, just one of these scam compounds in Myanmar, a report came out yesterday that said that one compound 1 year, they netted $100 million. And so this is one of the best criminal activities, most profitable criminal activities in Southeast Asia right now. And so I went over to Cambodia to look into this, And I saw how the other side of it works, which is that, okay, so like the scammer got they tricked me into sending the crypto. Once you send it, it's gone. You'll never see it again.
Yep.
All the trading in their fake app is fake. No, but I wanted to see how it worked on their end. And in Phnom Penh, there's a whole section in town that's heavily Chinese. And I will tell you, like, people are not using crypto for regular stuff. Like, you don't see crypto being used almost anywhere in the world. Like, there's the crypto guys are great at spreading this idea that like crypto is going mainstream. No. That's not what I saw. Yep. But when I was on a bus from Vietnam to Phnom Penh. I crossed over the border and I got off to take a break in this casino town where I'd heard that there were a lot of these scam compounds. One of the first things I saw in the parking lot was a little booth, cash for crypto.
Huh.
And I went in Phnom Penh to a currency exchange place. There were tons of these. And I mean, you sit down, you've got your anonymous crypto wallet on your phone. You send your crypto to them at their anonymous address, and they hand you crisp, clean $100 bills. And while I was there, I saw this kind of hungover looking Chinese guy in his pajamas walk in and walk out with a big brick of hundreds. The clerk told me he had just taken 50 grand. So crypto is moving. There's enough crypto exchange movement that these gangsters in Southeast Asia, once they've collected crypto from gullible Americans or Chinese people or people from Europe, I mean, it's happened, victims all over the world, they can trade that for local currency or for US dollars at these kind of shady exchanges. And from there, those exchanges will send that crypto kind of back into the legitimate crypto ecosystem.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Montana Knife Company, a brand that I am very fortunate to know quite personally. They're 120 miles south of, literally 120 miles south of directly where I'm sitting right now. American made right here in Montana, which makes sense given the fact that Montana is in the name, by the youngest master bladesmith ever in the US, Mr. Josh Smith. Now, if you're familiar with Montana Knife Company, you understand the struggle. It is getting harder and harder to actually get one of their knives. If you've ever gone online on one of their Thursday drops, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I have literally had knives taken from me out of my shopping cart as I am completing the purchase. I believe that either Josh or Jess are doing this personally. I have no data to actually prove that. But there is good news on the horizon if you have been through this struggle with me. They are planning to release 12 new models between right now and the end of the year. 4 of those are going to be in their military/tactical space. He's already released one. It was called the War Goat, and I'm lucky enough to actually have gotten a hold of one of the prototypes. This one actually wasn't stolen from me, Josh. It was actually given to me by Josh, so I can't really say too much negative about it. This is my everyday carry. This thing is in my fanny pack. You can talk smack about fanny packs if you want. It's where I carry all of my things. But this thing is awesome. Everything about this knife is everything I love about the brand. Quality and construction. They continue to evolve in their quality. The actual final product itself is unbelievably durable. It's unbelievably lightweight. I take it with me everywhere. I never get in knife fights except for with cardboard boxes. And that's the way that I'm looking to live the rest of my life. It's a fantastic brand. I love everything about it, and I love the people who are behind it. If you want to support them, go check out montanaknifecompany.com. And Thursdays, try your luck. Try to get one of their knives.
Order now, the 2 women who were killed and found dismembered in Juarez on Sunday were from El Paso.
On the southern border, there is a legal concept known as reasonable fear, a lifeline for those fleeing violence.
A Texas couple was found tortured and murdered.
Police say so far this month, 11 women have been killed in Juarez.
And then their bodies or body parts offered up to Santa Muerte as an offering. She represents death.
In this special Borderland docuseries, I take a deep dive onto true crime stories. Join me as we uncover the truth about the fear behind the crisis.
This was a group of powerful people.
Never been seen before in Mexico.
Evidence of ritualistic elements.
We ended up rescuing almost 200 kids.
The discovery of multiple women in mass graves.
They're almost in every state. When you put it together, you have an economic extortion map.
But even more violent.
We're talking about this kind of at that scam and individual level, but you've written about El Salvador and they moved to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender. Can you explain or talk about a little about why they wanted to do that? And then it seems like the legislation went into effect in 2021. Curious what the results have been in that country.
It was wild. I was at the Bitcoin conference in Miami in 2021. This was like, I didn't know that. I wasn't a crypto expert. I didn't know much about what was going on. And I was just kind of shocked by the craziness of the people that I met there. And I had thought I would meet sort of like Wall Street types who were going to talk about how, crypto would help you move money more quickly or cut down on fees in the financial system. Instead, I saw people who were telling me that like Bitcoin was going to save the world. And it was the cure for poverty. It was the cure for even malnutrition, war.
Okay.
So these guys are really out there. And it culminated at the end, this pretty young crypto bro was on stage. He had curly hair. He had a hoodie. He's kind of pacing around. He's cursing a lot. I couldn't really follow what he was talking about, but it seemed like he'd gone surfing in El Salvador and that he'd started talking to the locals about Bitcoin. He's really excited about what it was doing in this village. And then boom, he hits play and it's the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele. And he's giving a speech in English videotaped saying, "Surprise everyone, I'm going to make Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador." And the Bitcoin bro on stage is literally bawling. And he's just like so excited. He starts saying like, "I will die on this hill. I will be there. I'll die on this fucking hill." And the crowd, like I thought they'd be kind of like giggling, like, what's going on here? No, like people in the crowd are crying too. Everyone's so excited because if you're a real believer in Bitcoin, you think that Bitcoin is going to sort of take over the world and become like a new world currency. And so this was kind of like the first step, a critical test that El Salvador, it's a small country, but it's the first country where they'd really try to use Bitcoin. Because initially in the US, people thought, oh, maybe people would use Bitcoin to buy and sell stuff. But it's pretty slow, this decentralized technology. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a hassle. It just has never taken off. No one's using Bitcoin to buy and sell stuff. They've honestly kind of moved on from that idea and just now talk more about how the price will go up and we'll all be rich.
Except for that guy who bought a pizza with like $112 billion worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, great example, right? Whenever we talk about that, it's just like, how stupid are you to use Bitcoin to buy something? Oh. It shows why you don't want to have a currency that that's rapidly appreciating. It makes no one want to invest in anything. Yeah. Like imagine if he'd bought a house, it would have been like $50 billion of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I went down to El Salvador maybe like a year after this law went into effect to check it out. And what I found was almost nobody, regular people, were using Bitcoin at all. The president had given everyone $30 if they downloaded this Chivo app. It was like a government-run Bitcoin exchanging app. And they'd plopped these Bitcoin ATMs. Like in every town, there's like a town square where you'd have like your market. They'd plopped these Bitcoin ATMs like in the prime location of every town square. Like nobody's using them. They're guarded by guys with like automatic weapons 24/7. They have two clerks at each ATM to show you how to use it, but it's just like incredibly unpopular. And the first store that I went to, I was in this surf town where Bitcoin was supposedly the most popular. And I went to go buy some water from a little like roadside store. And I don't speak Spanish very well, but I said, puedo usar Bitcoin, por favor? And the clerk was just like, basura, which means garbage. He grabbed my water and he just walked away. Like, Get out of here with your stupid Bitcoins. Because the policy has attracted a lot of tourists, a fair number of tourists who are interested in Bitcoin. And I think if you're in these tourist towns, you just get sick of these Bitcoiners who want to buy water and have it take 15 minutes while they fumble with their, Bitcoin app or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's issues with the apps aren't compatible. No, the president also invested a few $100 million of El Salvador government money into Bitcoin.
Oh,
that's gone fine. Like, he hasn't made or lost too much money on that. I think he's up a bit, but his grand promises, like he said, they're going to build a gleaming new Bitcoin city with a Bitcoin mine powered by a volcano, a new airport. Like, this stuff isn't happening. And I didn't see, like, you could get people to let you use Bitcoin at like Starbucks, but it was embarrassing. I mean, the clerks treated you like they really made you feel ashamed that you were asking for you were the kind of loser who wanted the Bitcoin app. I felt like like I was like a American in France and I was asking for ketchup at a fancy restaurant.
Yeah.
So they're just more pressing issues. People didn't there was no appeal to the average person to use Bitcoin, is what they told me.
It almost seems like their involvement may have been more of a marketing play for people in the crypto ecosystem than an actual functional mechanism, which maybe they'll figure that out downstream. I would hate to find out at some point in time, not that I have any level of distrust in politicians or that it would be founded for any reason, but that individual or associates of that individual getting some type of reward for that announcement. You know what I mean? Because I bet you it moved the crypto markets, and I could see the tie back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, there's no evidence of that. And I think the president actually, Bukele, gave an interview recently where he said, listen, the use of Bitcoin, it didn't really happen the way we hoped, but we think it was useful for marketing the country.
Fair enough.
And I would say, I mean, it's pretty expensive marketing plan but certainly there are some Bitcoin type people who come there. But we're talking like a couple thousand. It's not like a huge number.
Yeah.
What's going on, everyone? This episode is also brought to you by Allegiance Gold. Gold prices have surged, reaching nearly $2,500, a 20% increase in under a year. With traditional investments under scrutiny, gold and other precious metals have become attractive alternatives. The rise in gold prices reflects growing skepticism towards conventional investments and highlights its stability. Notably, even banks are increasing their gold reserves, underlying its lasting value. Gold isn't just a short-term play, it's a long-term strategy for financial security and growth. Whether you're an experienced investor or just starting, gold should be a part of your investment portfolio. Start securing your financial future with Allegiance Gold, a trusted leader in precious metals with top ratings from TrustLink and an A+ accreditation from the Better Business Bureau. Allegiance Gold can help you protect your IRA or 401k with physical gold and silver, or delivers precious metals securely to your doorstep. If that sounds interesting to you and you go to protectwithandy.com today, listeners will get an exclusive lowest price on the market for select gold bars. That is protectwithandy.com, or you can call 844-790-9191 to talk to an account representative.
Officials are warning of a widespread cybersecurity attack.
Frustrations and delays have continued as countless are still without power.
Market volatility is at its highest since the pandemic.
There are a number of reports across the state.
Unidentified crashing news. There is no doubt our grid is at risk.
The shark is entering cyberspace.
So, I think there's a lot of hesitation and trepidation from I don't want to say uneducated, but investors who aren't familiar with the crypto space. And then they'll hear about things like Sam Bankman-Fried or FTX, right? One of these exchanges that you've talked about. You actually got to spend some time with Sam Bankman-Fried. And I'm curious if you could how did you get introduced to him? I know that you went out and saw him where was he living? Puerto Rico?
Bahamas.
Very close,
yes.
but farther away. How was he as a person? Did you have any idea? And when you spent time with him, was this after FTX was coming unwound or before?
So I met him on his way up. I spent a few days at his office when things were going well, when FTX was at its peak. He'd actually just gotten back from the Super Bowl where they'd shown their ad with Larry David. He was really just becoming famous, becoming a household name. He was 29 years old. He's worth like $20 billion. One of the richest people I think the richest person under 30 in the world. And he is really all over the place. So I arranged this interview with his public relations person. When I got there, I wasn't sure if he really had any idea that I was coming. And I was in, I feel like this moment stuck with me. I was in the kind of kitchen of his office, which was just like a pretty small building that sat like maybe 50 people in kind of a parking lot near the airport in the Bahamas. And I'm in the kitchen, I'm talking with his assistant about the Super Bowl she'd just been to. And then in shuffles Sam Bankman-Fried. He's wearing crew socks, no shoes, cargo shorts, and a FTX t-shirt like always. His hair's a mess, and he doesn't acknowledge us. He reaches up in the cabinet. He takes out a packet of like microwavable Indian food, like you might get at Trader Joe's. He does not microwave it, just rips it open and starts spooning it into his mouth. And the assistant's like, "Hey, this is the reporter who's come to profile you for for Bloomberg, like a big publication." And he's like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And then he goes back to his desk. And by the way, that packet was still there the next day on his desk, half full. But he was kind of a dream for a reporter because he seemed totally unguarded. Mm-hmm. And most CEOs, everything is stage managed. Every moment of your interaction with them, they've planned it out and they've got their handlers there. Sam was like, "Just pull up a chair and watch me do my thing." So I'm sitting there with him, looking over his shoulder. I mean, in hindsight, it's extra wild because like he's running at this moment like one of the biggest scams in history, and he's got like a reporter just sitting there, like while his chats and everything are popping up. I think his top secret chats did not. Maybe he kept him on his phone and didn't have him pop up on the screen.
Yeah,
but he's doing an interview with NPR while I'm watching. And then he starts playing video games while he's being interviewed by NPR while I watch. And then little things pop up on his screen that like, it's a Wall Street bank CEO. And the CEO's like, "I'm in the Bahamas. Can I get 5 minutes?" And Sam's like, "Eh." And somebody's like, "Do you want to buy MoneyGram? It's for sale." Like the Western Union competitor.
Yeah.
And he thinks about it for a second. He's like, "Nah." And this was his inbox. I'm looking at all his emails and it's just filled with messages from CEOs, billionaires, top investment bankers, like everybody wanted a piece of him. And he said something to me that didn't strike me as much in the moment, but in hindsight was very funny because I told him, I'm like, "Hey, I'm writing a book about crypto. I'm trying to get to know this market." And he wasn't one who said Bitcoin to the moon. He was always like a little skeptical himself. And his pitch was, "I used to work on Wall Street. I know how like top traders work. These crypto people, they just started this from scratch. Like all the systems are broken. There's huge inefficiencies. I'm going to bring that Wall Street mentality and I'm just going to clean up." And that's what it seemed like he was doing. So when I told him about my project, he's like, "Sure, I could be like a helpful guide to this crypto market. I won't lie to you."
Oh, God.
And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And I actually went down this whole road of thinking that there was a different company in crypto that was the sketchy company that could implode. And I told him that I'm like, "I'm really interested in this other company. And I'm kind of wondering, could it be like a big Ponzi scheme?" And he says to me, he's like, and I told him, I'm kind of in a pinch, Sam, because I've already committed to writing this book, but I don't know if this other company is a Ponzi scheme. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I can understand your issue. Like, it would be a lot better if this was all just like one giant scam, huh?
Oh,
And I'm
God.
like, oh my, and when I heard that on the tape afterwards, I was like, oh my God, Sam.
How long after this
but,
did FTX collapse?
So it all happened so fast. So that was like February 2022. And I returned to that to see him again in the Bahamas in November, that November when it all collapsed. And we spent a whole day at, his pitch was, I only got rich, so I'm going to give it all away. And he liked to act like he didn't care about money. Like, he talked about how he drove a Toyota Corolla. He lived with 10 roommates. He did not talk about how the apartment he shared with 10 roommates was a $30 million penthouse at the nicest resort in the Bahamas. So after FTX collapsed, he was kind of stuck at his penthouse. And I went to go visit him and interviewed him for a day about what had happened because, frankly, I hadn't suspected something like this would happen. Nobody did. And I wanted to hear, not that I thought he would tell me the truth, but I wanted to hear his side of the story. But he's always just like super analytical. Whatever question you ask, he'll think about it and really respond, which is unusual, you know. I do interviews all the time and people stick to their talking points. He'd engage with any question. And he always broke things down into odds. He loved to weigh the odds in any situation. And he would tell you, like, he would take extreme risks that the other people wouldn't take. But what I didn't realize is that he also had no regard for any rules or laws about fraud.
Do you think, well, I guess in hindsight, it's probably been well diagnosed, but did FTX start off as a Ponzi scheme or did it evolve into one?
So Sam had a trading firm called Alameda Research. Yep. And that was like a hedge fund where he would trade crypto. And his pitch was that he was really good at finding low risk trades, like buy Bitcoin here, sell it there in 10 seconds and clear a 10% profit. And after a while, he started his own exchange. And what he said was that the other exchanges where he had experience trading were very poor. I'm going to have better technology and my exchange will be great. And Alameda always traded on FTX, but he claimed that it didn't get any special treatment. And like, this is something that would never be allowed on Wall Street because, like, you could imagine it would be like you're playing online poker against the guy who runs the poker website.
Yep.
Like, it would be very tempting for that guy to go like look at everyone's cards. And Sam always said, you know, we don't look at anybody's cards, we don't cheat or whatever. But what was true was that pretty much from the start, like, if you sent money to FTX, you would open the app, it would look like it was in your account. In reality, Alameda, Sam's hedge fund, would use that money to go gamble. And at other exchanges, at FTX, to buy the penthouse, to donate to politicians. It ramped up over time, but there were never the kind of controls there should have been. Right from the start, on purpose, Alameda was allowed to use the customer funds. So like, Ponzi scheme maybe is not quite the right word, because to me that implies that, you know, you're promising investors you're going to pay them, you know, a certain amount of interest. It's like a little more complicated than that, but the fraud started early for sure.
Okay.
And this idea that's become popular recently, I would say, that maybe it was just one bad decision or it was a desperate attempt to save the company when crypto crashed. Sam's trial, where all his best friends testified, really revealed that the fraud started pretty much as soon as they started the exchange.
Okay. What actually led to FTX failing?
So in the summer of 2022, like, crypto during the pandemic had been going crazy. Like it seemed like a broken slot machine. Like you put your money into crypto and like you always won pretty much. And people were making money on these like NFTs, like these really dumb cartoons.
The monkeys. I remember them, the ape NFTs.
Yeah, I got one for the book. Yeah.
Hopefully you didn't
luckily
overpay.
Escaped at like a pretty low loss. But that came to an end in the summer of 2022, and essentially a lot of crypto companies had been lending money to each other, and then that money was being invested in the market and like pumping up the whole market. And when that sort of house of cards collapsed, prices went way down. At first, it seemed that Sam was the big winner of this, and that he had even made deals to acquire some of the failed companies. But behind the scenes, they were totally screwed, and the company, they were already dipping into the customer money. They went like way deeper. So that's putting them in a precarious position, because look, as long as no one asks for their money back,
yeah, you're good.
They won't know if it's there or not, right? So what set things off in November was actually a mean tweet. And Sam had a rival. His name was CZ. He is like the head of Binance, which is the biggest crypto exchange. And Sam always had his sights on Binance. When I saw him, he had like a dashboard on his computer that showed like FTX versus Binance market share. And one of Sam's friends wrote something nice about CZ on Twitter. And Sam replied and said, "Oh, sure, like I'm sure CZ will help us out in Washington. He can come to the US, right?" And that's the joke, is that CZ could not come to the US because he would be arrested. And the joke was accurate when the CZ's first trip to the US was to go to jail for massive amounts of money laundering, including for terrorists. I think he just got sent to a halfway house. But that's jumping ahead. So Sam sent this mean tweet, and CZ didn't like it. And CZ essentially, CZ had an investment in FTX, and he said, "I'm going to dump that investment." And FTX there wasn't stock on the stock market, but it had a token that is a crypto token that was basically stock in FTX.
Mm-hmm.
And when CZ started selling, people saw the price of this token start to go down, and they started to worry about FTX's financial condition. And now if you got your money in FTX, your incentive is just take it out, because you could put it back in next month if FTX doesn't collapse. So
assuming they have the money to give you.
Right. I mean, if you wait and see, you might lose the game of musical chairs.
Yeah.
So even if there's a small risk of FTX failing, your incentive is take the money out. And a lot of people did. And FTX was not able to pay everybody. And once that was revealed, that was it. They had to close their doors. And it was only a couple weeks before Sam was arrested.
Do you have any idea the losses involved with the FTX going under? Has it been quantified, the total number of money that was lost?
So when FTX failed, there was $8 billion missing.
Oof.
And
oopsie,
I mean,
my bad. Put the number in the wrong column.
I was grilling Sam about this, and I'm like, and he basically tried to argue that he had just lost track of all the money and that it was somehow misplaced. And I was like, Sam, you're telling me that like the MIT genius misplaced $8 billion? And he was like, misaccounted. Now, but the wild thing is that crypto kind of bottomed out after this FTX failure. It really discredited the whole space.
Yeah.
But the FTX went bankrupt. And now you might think of going bankrupt as like it's a zero. But what it means for a complicated company like this is that an independent team of lawyers come in and they kind of assess what they have. So like Sam Bankman-Fried's penthouse will sell it. And then they're trying to get as much money back for investors as possible. And what they found was that Sam had definitely taken the customer's money and gambled it. But among the things that he bought were some cryptocurrencies, and the lawyers in charge of the bankrupt company didn't sell them right away. And the cryptocurrencies recovered, the value recovered so much that the bankrupt FTX now expects to recover enough to pay everyone back in full. So in the end, now a lot of people still have complaints that like they needed that money, 2 years ago, not now, or my money was in Bitcoin, so I would have actually made a lot of money. You're just giving me the value as of the failure, but I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And at Sam's trial, he tried to use that as a defense. He tried to say, which might sound pretty reasonable, right? Like, hey, actually, nobody lost money, so maybe just let me go, or like lesser sentence. But it's not actually a legal defense. And I'll tell you why. I mean, imagine that like I stole your car, and then like later the police caught me, and I said, well, I still have the car. You can have it back.
It's not damaged. I'll fill up the gas tank
right.
for you.
Yeah, like I'm still going to jail for car theft.
Yeah.
So that argument played out in court, and Sam ended up getting sentenced to 25 years in prison, despite the strong recovery of all these assets.
Yeah. What's unfortunate about that particular case is I think we heard more about the notable and famous endorsers and celebrities that were associated with it, as opposed to the average everyday person that may have lost, fill in the blank percentage of whatever their investments were. Sure, some people do what they want to with their money, but some people maybe were investing for their future, for kids' college, whatever it may be. I do hope that they're made whole. That would be amazing. But you never hear those stories. You just hear, oh, Tom Brady was associated with FTX. What a piece of shit. It's to name one person among many. I have nothing against Tom Brady. He's the tallest, most handsome man I've ever met. But it's the smaller consumer seems to get lost in that arithmetic or in the spotlight often. And I wish that wasn't the case.
I totally agree. And I think I would extend that to say that we hear these stories about crypto billionaires. And even after all that's happened, I think some people still think, okay, maybe, dog with a hat coin, that's a real coin. Maybe that is the next Ethereum or Bitcoin, and I will get rich if I buy it. Because we've heard all these stories about people getting rich off crypto. And I think the more typical story with crypto is like regular person puts in probably not that much money, but like some money to buy some coin they heard about somehow, and they lose some of it. It's kind of like a zero-sum game, not like sports gambling or something.
Yeah.
Like maybe for some people it's just fun, and for other people they lose more than they can afford, and this really, their lifestyle suffers. So that story is not really that exciting. Like regular person loses some money on crypto. It's a lot more fun to. I mean, I was just at the most recent Bitcoin conference. There was a guy there wearing a weird gold mask, and people told me that he had made billions of dollars on Shiba Inu coin. I mean, that's like a much more fun story than like random, dentist loses 10 grand on Cardano or something.
I guess. I mean, given you definitely cannonballed into the crypto world. Are you bearish or bullish on crypto in general?
So I am very bearish. My question that I wanted to answer was like, what is this all good for? And what I found was it can be good for crime. It can be good if you want to start a coin and sell it to people. But and I think in the long run, any company, any app, any cryptocurrency, it's only going to have value if it's useful to regular people. Like Bitcoin is as old as Uber, it's as old as WhatsApp, and those companies are valuable because they've become part of our everyday lives.
Well, they're service-based too.
Crypto's failed to come up with a use case that appeals to many people at all. So So I'm bearish. You never know. A lot of people are working on it. Maybe one day they will come up with something cool, but I will not be there to see it. And I've seen the harm that it's done to people around the world. I mean, one particular crypto scheme I spent a while investigating is called Axie Infinity. It was like, it might sound sort of harmless. It was like this Pokemon-ish game, but you won cryptocurrency for playing, and you had to buy your little creatures for a different cryptocurrency. It became like a real fad in the Philippines, and like maybe more than 1 million people played it there. And I went there and I saw that people had, regular people like cab drivers had borrowed against their cars to buy more monsters. Jesus. And when this, the cryptocurrency in the game was called Smooth Love Potions, I don't really know why. But like, yeah, we laughed, but they were like, yeah, of course you're not gonna, make a fortune on Smooth Love Potions. That's not solid. But people really believed in it, and when it collapsed, it really hurt people. I mean, I met one woman who had lost so much she was considering leaving her kids with her parents and going abroad to find a higher paying job. And I just felt like in so many cases, the crypto guys come up with these ideas. They don't really think too much about whether it'll work or what impact it'll have on regular people. And they just sort of put it out in the world. And if something bad happens, they're like, on to the next one. So I am, still very bearish, despite all the prices going right back up again after the collapse of FTX.
And this is a nice way to work our way towards the end of the conversation and to put a loop on this, or a bow to bring it back to not only just scamming, but how can people, what is your advice? 2 pieces, I guess. 1, to just avoid pure scams, but 2, if you are going to play in this ecosystem, how can you do so without getting in water over your head and drowning? Is there a safe approach to dip your toes? So like I said, 2-part question. 1, how do people avoid scams? And honestly, from a total novice and somebody who doesn't know much about this, my advice to people is, A, don't send money to anybody that you don't know directly in your own personal life, regardless of the level of communication back and forth, especially if it's over a crypto app. That's where I would start for people. What would you suggest?
I think, you've got the scam side of it covered. And on the investing side, what I would say is that the way to make money on a lot of things is you want to get in early, right? And you want to be the first one to hear about it. But when the masses come in, the price is going to go up a lot. Yep. The thing is, if you are listening to this podcast, you are not going to get in early. By the time you hear about it, it is late. And I don't mean anything about the podcast, but us regular people are not the ones who get in early. This is a game where the insiders have all sorts of special deals going on. They've set it up already. And by the time you hear about it, you're what they call exit liquidity, i.e., they're going to sell their stuff to you, and you're going to be left with the tokens, and they will have your real money. So, I'm sure a lot of people listening would object to this. They might have their favorite cryptocurrencies that they support. And, some of them are more well-established. And I guess if you want to bet that crypto has a future, maybe you would bet on one of the more well-established ones. But if someone is telling you about some hot new coin, it's the odds that you are going to be the lucky one who got in early, I think are pretty low.
Yeah. And, I think both you and I speak for you here. We're not giving investment advice, right? I'm not a professional investment person or broker or professional, but I think, perhaps don't think of throwing your whole life savings into something like this as well. Maybe approach it as any other investment and, maybe diversify a bit across a variety of different sectors of investment. I get the desire for people. I think a lot of these things trade on the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out, because oh my God, I just heard about this coin. And like you said, you're not the first person to hear about this. You're like the 15th leg down from the, of the tree. And like you said, the people who set this up are the ones who are really going to benefit from it. So maybe just use with caution, dip your toes into the water. If you have excess money to invest, diversify perhaps. I don't know. Again, I'm not an investment professional. I'm not giving advice.
Yeah, I don't. People have their own strategies, but I would just say that a lot of times the goal is, when I talk to people who invest, it's because they wanted to make a lot of money really quick.
Who doesn't?
And what I would say,
who doesn't?
And what I would say is that if you are going to get big returns, you are taking big risk.
Yeah.
Like, there's not some secret to getting big returns without big risk. So if you go, like in crypto, there's a lot of things that pay interest. That was a big part of the bubble. And there were these things that paid, 10 or 20% interest. And I would ask these guys who are running these companies, how are you paying so much interest? What are you doing to earn that interest? Because like a company has to earn money to pay the interest.
Totally.
The explanations didn't make any sense. And the companies it turns out they didn't make sense because these companies were up to no good too. And a lot of those companies failed. So, I mean, if somebody says, I'm going to pay you like 10 or 20% way above the market rate, like your first thought should be like, this is suspicious. What's going on?
Yeah.
And why haven't, the professional investors snapped this up for themselves if it is so good?
I wish there was a free lunch, but it seems like all these things come at a cost, and it's generally the cost of the consumer.
That's what I think too, definitely.
Yeah. I know we're coming up to the end of the time. Anything you want to leave the listeners or viewers with? Closing thoughts by Mr. Fox.
I will just say that I'm bearish on crypto, but going deep into crypto was like the best adventure of my life. I got to go like all around the world and meet some of the craziest characters I've met in a long career as an investigative reporter. And so I'm grateful to crypto for that. And now that I'm trying to move on, find new topics, I haven't been able to match it. So if you're not gambling your money and losing it, it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe treat it like the Wild West, and the Wild West is, although Kevin Costner makes amazing movies about it, there was a lot of carnage out there. People were getting gunned down on the street. So use with caution.
Yeah. I wouldn't have lasted, 3 hours in the Wild West.
Fair enough. Zeke, thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you again for tuning in and subscribing to Change Agents, an Ironclad original presented by our friends just down the road in Frenchtown, Montana, Montana Knife Company. See you all next week with an all-new episode and guest.